More pain in the world of crypto. Voyager Digital files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Voyager started competing with other companies that had lending programs. At first, they were offering modest returns of 1 to 3%, and then they started ratcheting it up. To compete with other competitors, they had to take on more risk, and more risk, well, that became risk from the investors, not from the team.
Together, the package was $500 million. What we don't know, maybe we have to presume that the number in the filing is right,
but they paid some of it back in the interim.
Back, right? We don't know.
So Steven decided to turn up the heat, kind of like SPF. Steven went out of his way to try to pay for influencers, celebrities, and spokespeople. Steven became obsessed with trying to beat out Kaczynski and Celsius.
Hey crypto warriors, in today's video, let's deep dive into the case study of Voyager Digital and why is it important to have self-custody of your assets. This interesting case study is filled with so many ups and downs, highs and lows that is very important to understand for the hodlers, investors, and learners of Web3 ecosystem today. Let me start with a very interesting story of how Aaron lost whooping $15,000 as a result of this collapse. Imagine working so hard to save up for your investments so you can gain financial freedom just to realize, poof, one day it's all gone. This is exactly what happened with Aaron when Voyager Digital collapsed because of Three Arrows Capital, FTX, and also due to SEC interference. The dreams of Aaron and other thousands of investors crushed when one of the biggest hedge funds in the crypto industry collapsed, which is Three Arrows Capital. So how did Three Arrows Capital collapse? What was the reason which led to the massive cascading effect? Let's go through the another interesting story. So Three Arrows Capital collapsed on its margin call. So what exactly is margin call? Let's say you have $100 to invest in your spot balance or a prepaid balance, but you want to buy a position or trade in a position of $1,000. So how do you get the remaining $900? You get the remaining $900 when exchanges gives you the loan against your collateral or against your position. So Three Arrows Capital borrowed significant amount of money from the Voyager Digital to the tune of over $350 million so they can do margin trading. But when Terra collapsed, where Three Arrows Capital had a very significant position size, it all crashed down and it led to the cascading effect where Three Arrows couldn't meet its margin call. So let me give you more insights. Let's say you buy Bitcoin or you bought Bitcoin at $25,000 with $100 in your spot balance and $900 in your margin borrowing account. Let's say the price of Bitcoin collapses to $23,000. So when this happened, either you have got two choices. A, you have to either pay the $900 to keep your position open, or B, exchanges would liquidate your position instantly. So Three Arrows Capital went out of assets because the market and their position, which were in Luna, collapsed drastically, which led them unable to meet their obligations. So now Voyager Digital had a very significant exposure to 3AC because 3AC was a very big hedge fund in the crypto industry. They had a very good reputation and as well as credit rating. So when 3AC was unable to meet its obligations, it had an impact on Voyager Digital and it did not be able to repay the loans, and the investors who invested in Voyager Digital, which lent out money to 3AC with an expectations of making some interest payment, finally collapsed. Now, there is an interesting point in this story. When it all happened, one of the other biggest names in the industry, which is FTX US, decided to buy Voyager Digital. And the reason why FTX decided to buy Voyager Digital was that FTX had borrowed more than $400 million from the Voyager Digital. Now, FTX had a very rock solid reputation in the industry. And when FTX collapsed, they were not able to meet their obligations again. This was another turning point where all the hopes of Voyager's investors was crushed completely. Now, finally, the third interesting part in the story, the SEC interference. So one of the another biggest players in the industry, Binance, decided to buy Voyager's Digital's asset. The reason why Binance wanted to buy, because Voyager had a very good community and Binance wanted to play its significant role in supporting and thriving the crypto community. So when Voyager board approved the Binance acquisition of Voyager, SEC interfered, citing that all of the operations of Voyager Digitals and its assets were treated as securities. Finally, the investors of Voyagers and the founding team and the board members of Voyagers had no choice but to go for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. But during this time, when this news fell like a wildfire into the crypto community, every investor decided to go ahead and caused withdrawal on the Voyager. In this entire process, investors not only lost hope, but also realized that how government regulations could be crappy and undecisive at certain times. Now, when Voyager Digital board decided to finally file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and it has been going on for over a year now. And finally, they have decided to settle to give investors up to 70% of their investments, which was held onto the platform. Now, guys, the biggest question is how in the world one of the biggest hedge funds in the industry, which is 3AC, could potentially collapse, how one of the biggest regulators cannot help the community with regards to this, right? So 3AC collapsed because of Terra Luna, which caused a cascading effect on the 3AC as 3AC borrowed significant amount of money as a collateral against its Luna. So when Luna started to crash, 3AC finally lost out of liquidity to post as a collateral, against which platforms like Voyager and all the other exchanges which lent out money to 3AC were forced to sell assets. This basically caused a massive selling pressure on the market, triggering a lot of positions. And essentially, when this all happened, the entire crypto industry collapsed. First, it all started with Terra. It started with 3AC. 3AC was one of the biggest hedge funds in the industry. It had exposure to massive asset size and portfolio. It collapsed. And then when FTX collapsed, everything finally collapsed. And then finally, the twist to the story was the lack of regulations to the entire event. Now, guys, we have seen this similar event happening with one of the biggest banks like Silicon Valley Bank.
During the Obama-Biden administration, we put in place tough requirements on banks like Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, including the Dodd-Frank law to make sure that the crisis we saw in 2008 would not happen again. Unfortunately, the last administration rolled back some of these requirements.
The same companies for which the bank had been founded became more likely to draw down their existing funds, prompting SVB's deposits to drop by $16 billion in 2022. That was the most on record.
This is a classic bank run. And when the bank run starts, you don't want to be the last guy and wondering what happened.
This is what exactly happened with Voyager Digital and also the other platforms like Celsius. And as per several reports, hundreds of banks in the United States have collapsed or been bailed out by the US Federal Reserve System. So guys, is this entire system really corrupted, or how does it like really work? Just let me summarize this to you with just one single example. Let's say there is a bank, right? And bank has around $100 billion in deposits. So when you deposit money with the bank's job is to give interest to its deposit holders. So how does bank make money? It's very simple. It lends out money. So let's say bank has lent out around $50 billion as a collateral against maybe house, against some mortgages, some personal loans, etc., and just have $50 billion as a cash reserve. Now, when all the deposit holders rush to the bank to withdraw their money, obviously bank wouldn't be in a position to uphold the withdrawal request because bank really doesn't have sufficient liquidity. Bank's money are invested into assets which are used to generate yields for the deposit holders. And this is exactly what happened with Voyager Digital. Here are the key takeaways from this interesting case study. Number one, not your keys, not your coin. Please do understand that be in control of your private keys and store your crypto assets in self-custody wallets like Ledger or MetaMask. Number two, nothing is really safe in the world of cryptocurrencies. So guys, when you're deciding to invest, always make sure to understand how platform works, its modus operandi, and how does it generate yields. Number three, always study the risk exposure of every single platform. Please do understand that how their platform lends out money. This is very, very important because some of the platforms like Voyager or Celsius might have very significant exposure to just one single entity. So this is like a centralized point of failure. So meaning if one entity collapses, your entire investment might be at risk. Number four, never put all your eggs in one basket. Always diversify your investment, diversify your holdings, or even when you are thinking to store your assets with exchanges because they generate better yield or you could multiply your money, just make sure to trade on different platforms. So this way your assets are diversified, you are safe, and you would never lose all your money. Number five, which is the most important point out of this case study, never be greedy. Guys, this is the most important principle of investing. Never be greedy. You should never take excessive margins and use collaterals to borrow money to invest because the markets are very risky and anything can go against you. So, guys, please be careful and definitely looking forward to see you in our next case studies. See you in the next one. Thank you so much.